Hi guys, this is Nathan Tusi with your daily outlook. Not much news going on tomorrow, so I'm just going to jump right into the analysis here. First up, we have the euro dollar. As always, we like to go over the euro dollar first. We can see that today's bar certainly continued this uptrend with a strong bullish bar, and we're actually getting close to the previous resistance level. It's the 38.2 fib level. It's also the level on this tail. So assuming that tomorrow's bar has a little bit of bullishness in it, we should come up and test this level. One thing to note is that a break of this level would most likely result in some type of retrace back to test it again and then a continuation in the upside. Could be a great long potential depending on how much it breaks this level and if there's a good retest. You'll notice that we are starting the actual uptrend. We've had a few tests of this line now, so we're in what I would consider a legitimate reversal pattern, heading back to the upside. So obviously there's going to be some more levels on the way. You see that there's a base right above this, so if it breaks both of these levels, which are around the same area, and continue to go up, we have that. Each Fibonacci level here, in here, and then of course the original very strong support level will be resistance on the way back up, and then you have this trend line on the way down. So if it runs into this, so a lot of resistance, but certainly if it continues to break these levels, we could have some great long opportunities. Keep an eye on the resistance levels, of course, but by all means, I think that long positions are in order right now for euro dollar because of the test of this line and the 3 consecutive bullish bars. I consider this a legitimate reversal to the upside, and now we're just waiting for continuation of that. Okay, pound dollar, a little bit different because the pound dollar is in more of a choppy phase than the euro dollar. You see that where the euro dollar has actually gained some ground in the upward direction, here the pound dollar is kind of just fighting. You have some fighting between the bulls and the bears here, and as you can see, it is perhaps tightening it up a little bit, and if it continues to tighten, we could expect a burst to one direction or the other. So perhaps one of these next very close daily bars will provide us with that breakout. The pound dollar is a pair that moves a pretty good amount, so it can't consolidate for very long without getting that breakout. As far as a pattern is concerned, we would normally consider this a triangle trend continuation. So based on the pattern, a likely breakout would be to the north side. So if you play these triangle patterns, look for a breakout to the upside. Again, we do have to be careful because there's a lot of resistance. One of the major levels is in this area. So if it breaks out, it won't have long to go before it meets some serious resistance in its path. But as we know, if there's good momentum, breaking resistance will not be a huge issue. Okay, the Australian dollar is one that we like to look at because it's also in a reversal pattern, somewhat like the U.S. dollar versus the euro. Australia also had a nice gain today. However, its biggest problem is that it's running into some pretty serious resistance right here. We have this tail, and this tail, all bouncing off this line. So we're testing that right now as we speak. And this is about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we're getting close to the close of this bar. I'm not sure, obviously where we're going to end up, but if it does close above this area, tomorrow's bar we look for a retest and then a continuation to the upside, and that could provide a really good long opportunity. As you can see, this is rounding out, so anything to the upside in the form of continuation could provide a really good long entry. And if it breaks this, the next resistance level is probably in this area. So that gives you a decent amount of room for the currency pair to move before you're dealing with major resistance. US dollar, Canadian dollar had a very bearish day today because some of the USD weakness. Let me get rid of my line here. Some of the USD weakness and also the CAD did gain a little bit of strength. So if we draw our Fibonacci line, we can see that our last test was right at that 38.2 level, and now we're headed back in that direction. So the expectancy here would be for the USD CAD to come at least back down and test this level based on this bearish momentum bar. And if it breaks it, we could see perhaps run all the way back down to this previous level. So keep your eye on this bearish bar. If you're looking for a shorter target, this momentum-filled bar would be expected to at least come down and test this level. So this could be a pretty high probability short entry, I would think. And also notice that we are, even with a little bit of chop lately, we are developing some kind of downward trend line. So continuation of this as well would provide a pretty good trend indication. Now, along with the trend, we do have to remember that there is chop back and forth, back and forth. That's how a trend line works. But a trend line is a trend line, so that means that there's some downward momentum. Okay, so remember that before this up move, we had a pretty big ranging market in this area. You can see it over here. So that kind of area back around parity is like a vacuum, and it wants price to come back down. So if you can get some bearish momentum, certainly expect price to come down at this parity level. And a break of a few key levels like this one, for instance, would provide a pretty good short opportunity. Okay, let's go to Euro Pound. Euro Pound again is fighting to continue this trend line. You see that today we had a continuation of the bullish bounce off the trend line, so definitely a good signal. I remember we talked yesterday and mentioned that this the close of this bar might be a good long. If you took that long, you're up a little bit, not too much, but you're looking for a continuation to the upside to perhaps continue this little upward channel that we're in now, which would be a pretty decent sized trade, I would think. If it comes up and gets into this area, you're looking at a decent amount of pips. So as far as right now, I think we're kind of over this little resistance point and just looking for a continuation to come up and test the top of the trend line. Pretty bullish on this still. Euro yen is another one that we looked at. We talked about yesterday. It looks like more of a legitimate reversal each time we look at it. And now we're just fighting, like almost all of the markets are, we're fighting the choppiness. So if you draw your line here, you see that you're right at the level here, and struggling with the same exact level here. So on the way down it chopped at this point, and now on the way up it's chopping at this point. So what we need to do is wait for the continuation. So we have a trend, we get a little bit of chop, and then we're waiting for the continuation. And that's basically how trends work. So a break of of this area here would indicate a continuation of the uptrend as far as I'm concerned. And that's what we're looking for, continuation. Continuation is always important in Forex or in any market really. But you're always looking for continuation of the current movement, because continuation of the current movement means pips, and pips is what makes money. So that's what we're looking for. Pound yen, again, just another currency pair that is struggling in between very small levels, so it's not moving very much in one definite direction. But again, pound yen is a pair that moves a lot, so we're looking for a breakout. And again, with a triangle pattern, what most people are looking for is this: a move, and then it consolidates, and as it consolidates, it tightens. So you see here how it gets tighter and tighter, and then it breaks back out to the upside. So that's kind of what you're what your triangle pattern looks like. Here's your triangle. It looks kind of like this, and then you get the breakout. So we're seeing a similar pattern, obviously right here with this kind of move, and it's tightening up. So if it continues to tighten up, the expectation would be a breakout to the upside with a bullish triangle pattern. Now that's not to say that it couldn't break out bearish, but because of course that's an option. But as far as pattern, you're looking at a bullish triangle pattern forming right now. Odd yen is very similar to odd dollar. Rounding out obviously at the bottom here, we have this this nice rounding motion, but we are struggling again with a zone, and it's kind of another triangle type zone like the odd dollar, also like the pound yen, and we're waiting for something to either burst out the top of the triangle or do a reversal and continue this long trend that we're in before. So either of those are an option. Right now it looks like a bullish triangle pattern like the one that we saw in the pound yen, but the markets are the markets, so you can't really expect with a lot of certainty for it to break out in one way. And quite frankly, as a trader, unless you're trying to jump on the pattern before it completes, you shouldn't really care too much about which direction it goes. For you, it should be more about waiting for it to go and make up its mind about the direction, and then taking advantage of that when it does. So, we're still waiting for areas to be broken, and make sure you keep watching the daily review, because we'll point out when it is broken, and that'll give you a lot more clarification as to when you should actually be trading. Pound New Zealand had another very bearish day today. You can see that this is a very steep trend line that we're in right now. Obviously, here, let me pull this over so you can see it better. A very steep trend line that we're in right now, and obviously you don't expect a currency to continue at this steep of a pace. But Pound New Zealand is a very crazy pair, and it can keep at an uncontrollable pace for quite some time. It just did break this little level here, and if you draw your line across, you'll see that this level corresponds pretty closely with these topping tails here. So it's basically right at the second little area. So a few more pips through here, and you've basically broken the next series of levels up until this tail, and then followed by this tail. But I think that the bearish momentum is definitely continued, and I think that the Pound New Zealand is still headed with a lot of momentum down to the previous lows, which would of course be in this area here. So this is the ultimate target for any Pound New Zealand shorts, this zone, which is a long way off still, but likely there will be some bounces in between before it gets to your area. But if you're patient, you can hold on to a pair. I know that Tony has some shorts all the way up here on a demo account that he's trading, so he's up 600 or 700 pips probably on those trades, and he's just being patient through the pullbacks and waiting for it to get to the ultimate low level where it started before the takeoff. And that's really the goal of trading. If you're looking for long-term success, it's being able to be patient through the little spikes and the little fake outs, and hold on to your trade until you hit your final target. And when you hit your final target, obviously that'll be a very big payday. So that's kind of the way that you need to be if you want long-term targets. You gotta be able to be patient to stick through it, and keep your eyes on the final target. Okay, well, that's about it for market analysis. Hope this was helpful, and that it's beneficial to your trading.